And we are live on the United Public Radio Network, UPRN 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM New Orleans. How cool is that? To all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave parapeeps on this side of the veil, welcome. This is Father Shawn's Paranormal Ministry. I'm your host, Father Shawn Whittington. I'm an ordained Catholic priest with the United States Old Catholic Church. I'm a fully professed brother with the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary. I'm a team member with Society of St. Benedict and co-founder of GhostBegone.biz. And yeah, I'm that guy on Eli Roth Presents The Legion of Exorcists on Travel Channel, which is currently streaming everywhere. And if there's anything you want to know about my wife and I and our ministry work, go to our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. And on there, you'll find a lot of cool things. Both my books are there. They're also available on Amazon and in an audio version. But if you buy them off the website, I autograph them. They leave my office here. They arrive in a beautiful house blessing kit. You never know when one of those is going to come in handy. And off of the website, part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my books goes to support stjude.org and the ASPCA. So how cool is that? Get to help some of the neediest children on the planet and the animals too. My online course, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare, is there. You can enroll in the course right there at the website or reach out to me and talk to me about it to make sure the course is right for you if before making that type of commitment. And there's a place on the website where you can make an appointment to speak with me about your spiritual issues. So that's my song and dance, and I'm going to stick to it. We have a great guest today, and you all know that. That's why you tuned in. I'm excited to meet him. I'm excited to have him here. It's going to be really, really cool. And the person responsible for him and my guest and I meeting and him being on the show is my wonderful co-host. So it's time to bring her out. Couldn't do this show without her. I love her. I respect her. Known her forever. She's also a lifelong paranormal experiencer, owner of Stellium Books, my publisher. Please welcome to the show the one and only Annette Munich.
Hi, Father Shawn. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here.
And we all are happy that you're here too. Hopefully we don't lose you. I know you're having a lot of high winds there in Oklahoma, and I know what that can do.
It's kind of horrendous. So far, so good. Knock on wood, and maybe, we won't have any interruptions. That would be fabulous.
Absolutely. Like I've been hosting night prayer and Bible study all week with Bishop Long. And the last 2 days we had extreme high wind warnings here. And I always lose power during that. So luckily I didn't, but it was very dicey. Today it's very calm. So you got my winds
You can
today.
have it back.
I hear you.
I'm done with
Listen, is there anything you want to say to the masses out there who love you and tune in for you too?
Oh, that's so sweet. I don't really have any announcements. Maybe I'll be doing some, getting ready to do some giveaways again soon because people like that. So something different for spring, something for Easter, maybe. We'll see.
Well, if somebody's interested in a wonderful, wonderful bracelet, I'm wearing one of yours today. It's under my Saints bracelet. It's right there, the beaded one with the silver fish on there. You make wonderful bracelets. If someone's interested in one of your very spiritual homemade bracelets, you're quite the artist when it comes to that. Just reach out to Annette and talk to her about. She
And
can probably custom make ones for you.
The one he's showing is really special because the beads are made out of stones from Medjugorje, where people have taken pilgrimages there for a long time, and the Blessed Virgin Mary's been seen, and that's been ongoing for years and years. So, and then they get blessed at the local church there before it's sent to me. So.
Very, very cool. And I still have plenty of boxes of blessed frankincense incense. If anybody is interested in a box of blessed frankincense incense, all you got to do is type in the word incense in the chat. tonight later on after the show as live streamed and then played in replay on the YouTube channel for a while. She'll check the chat, and if there's anybody in there that has, there's more than one name in there that has asked for incense, she'll do a drawing and she'll get the name to me, and then we'll reach out to that person, get their mailing address, and get them some free blessed frankincense incense. And once it's gone, it's gone. So if you're interested, just let us know.
Just type incense into either the chat during the show or later on the replay on YouTube for people that can't listen live. And then around midnight, we'll go and look and see, collect the names up, and send you some. That's kind of a tongue twister, isn't it? Blessed frankincense incense. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah. Well, listen, are you ready to bring on our very special
I'm
guest?
very ready.
I am too. I'm really excited. I know that the hour is not going to be long enough, so I'm going to quit wasting time. So here we go. In the famous words of Dr. Venkman, back off, man, I'm a scientist. Well, he happens to be a scientist. He's also a researcher, an investigator, radio, TV, and film personality, cool dude from Skinwalker Ranch fame. Brothers and sisters, please give a big, warm Paranormal Ministry family welcome to the one and only Jim Segala.
Hey, Jim, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. This is great.
Here. I hope you have a good time, and we've got people saying hello and good afternoon. And
hi, everybody.
I was
Jim.
Go ahead.
I'm so happy to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I know an hour is not going to be enough with you, so I just want you to have fun. So you'll want to come back. Give your wife a big hug for me for helping get this together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut up now, because if I get going, then I'm just going to get going. Annette was the one that's responsible for us meeting and getting you on the show today, and so that was really nice of her. I'm going to let her have first crack at you. And just talk about anything you want to talk about, man.
Absolutely.
It's your show today.
That sounds scary and violent first.
I know, right? Yeah. What am I up against there?
Right. What did you walk yourself into? But, I guess where I would start is I think that people would be interested in knowing if you believed in the paranormal, supernatural, before you got involved with Skinwalker. And if you ever had any experiences previously.
The answer is no. Before 2015, so just to give you a little history, so I started working for a gentleman by the name of Dr. Hal Puthoff, who is a very famous paranormal scientist who did a lot of work investigating very strange things. And I went to work for him in 2011, did some interesting type of experiments with him. But right in 2015, I started to get involved with what he classified as things I can't explain. And Jim, I want you to go out there, and here's a team of people to help you go explain these. So ever since that point is when I started to understand what a paranormal means, what experiencing means, what real encounters mean. So prior to that, I was more of a sci-fi type of person. I saw it from the sideline. But 2015, it was like this monumental date where I said, oh my God, this really exists, because I saw things happen. We experimented with it, and we actually have really good information on that it does actually exist. So prior to that, no. After that, yes, big time.
I would imagine. And I kind of love that you said no, because, and I think people expect a scientist perspective to be very, they're just going to collect the evidence and not make any kind of determination, and they don't know if things are real or not, and they just walk in.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. A lot of people do that, but again, I don't care if you're a scientist, okay, you're still a person,
right?
And you still have that sense of adventure, and like, what if this is real, or what other implications are there if this is actually real? I mean, are we living in a world where we don't have all the control we thought we had? So I'm a human, so that's the way I operate.
And on one of the earliest episodes, they had a cattle mutilation, and that's something we haven't talked about on this show before.
That is
And
so funny. You and I must be psychically connected today, because I was on the fence if I was even going to bring it up, because that is such an, some people go, everybody has talked about that, it's talked out, but I don't agree, because it's still happening. No one has an answer to it. You've got these animals that, they can't tell how they died, completely drained of their blood, parts of their body removed with precise surgical precision.
Mhm.
And, and I had a friend the other day go, listen, why would these advanced species travel, if they can travel through a wormhole or travel through dimensions or travel here from many galaxies away? Why would they want to do experiments on our cattle? Well, maybe it's not that. Maybe it's the government. Maybe it's something we haven't even thought about. But before you even jump on that, and please do anything you want to tell us about that, fine. But I did a little stalking of you, Jim, this past week. Talked to a couple of people who know you, and what they love about you is that you're a scientist, but you're open-minded. I have friends who are diehard parapsychologists, but they're skeptics till they die, no matter what. I've taken them on investigations and had full body apparitions and appear in front of them and then leave. And they immediately turn their head to me and they're debunking it and telling me that that's not what we saw. But you seem to have that. You've taken the blinders off. You've opened up to the fact that, you know, if you don't know, you don't know. But you're open to whatever you're going to learn about it. You're going to learn
Sure.
about it, and you're researching and you're investigating. So I'll just I'll just throw that at you.
Well, it's a really good question. It's a deep down question. So it really gets down into the understanding of what motivates people to go into this type of research and things like that. So from my perspective, I 100% convinced that there is something communicate or there's something manipulating us. That's why we have experiences. That's why we have all these things happening to us. But we're humans. We're not the only sentient beings on the planet. So what does our arrogance say that we're the only interesting things here? Dogs are sometimes. So I have a study that I conducted starting in 2017, where we put in, maybe 35, almost 50 people. And if you look at their narratives of how they explain their experiences, they say the first thing they say is that the dog started acting weird. They started barking. They started doing strange things. The animals in the field or the cows in the field started hurting, and they started doing things and doing strange things. And then I had my experience. So it's pretty obvious that there is some trigger that's going on, that the less intelligent, and I'll explain what that means, the less intelligent sentient objects in this, the animals, react first. Our problem, our human problem, is that our brains are so much more advanced than them. We try to rationalize everything. We try to put an explanation on everything. So before we even our brains even get a chance to say, oh, wait a minute, something strange going on, we've already processed a lot of that stuff and we're throwing stuff away. And I guess finally at some point it says, okay, I think this is strange. We need to actually take this for real. But dogs don't have that, or cows don't have that. So they react almost instantly to these things. And what happened on Skinwalker is that this cow, I mean, the lead up to this whole thing was that they were going crazy. And I asked, and I'm not a farmer, so I have no idea. So I said, why are the cows, running back and forth into the field? And they said, well, they never do that. That's a very strange thing. But they were reacting to some external stimuli from something. We don't know what it was, but it was something that made them, they put them in a flight type of thing. There was no animals around, obviously. There's no predators around. So something must have stressed them. And after all that was over, we found that one cow that died, the vet said, after he did the necropsy, and he said, he looked at this thing, he says, well, this animal died of fright, basically.
Wow.
And that was on the show. So what happens, your immune system is constantly going. When you get into a fright situation, it goes crazy. It really pumps up and it drains you of a lot of energy, right? You get really tired after you get frightened. I mean, people do that all the time. So this unfortunate cow, went into that situation. And what the vet said is that, they just got to the point where immune system just plummeted. And all of a sudden, all of the bad things that are in our body all the time that the immune system is like keeping down took hold. And actually, he died of pneumonia, unfortunately.
Wow.
So this poor animal, within 3 days, died of pneumonia. It just drowned in his own lungs. So he said the only thing that can cause that is like sudden fright. So when people ask me about, are these things they come millions of miles to go see an animal. I said, yeah, you're right. They're looking at everybody. Why would they come over here and just look at just humans? What's our arrogance to say that, there aren't any other intelligent things? I mean, look at dolphins. I mean, dolphins, I think, might be as smart as we are. We don't know. And they probably get interacted with. We can't really talk to a dolphin, but I'll bet you, there are people that have some kind of evidence that, they are interacted with. So are people being interacted with? Do we have experiences because of external sources? Yes. Do animals do? Absolutely. That was a long answer, but that's my answer.
It's a good answer.
Yeah, very well said.
But then they do seem like they're surgically attacking the cows and taking body parts.
In some instances, not so. Maybe the 0.01% you're going to get that, but on the most side, you're going to get that. You're going to get the interaction. It's like if people claim all the time that they're getting abducted, right? Are they physically getting abducted, meaning they're taken from one place out, or is their psyche, their intelligence, their whatever makes them human getting extracted from them, and that goes someplace? That's more likely. Are people actually getting body parts taken off and things like that? You don't hear of anything, but we're humans, so maybe it's a little bit more difficult. So when people say that cows are being manipulated and they're taking parts and things like that, you can't discount that. You can maybe raise your eyebrow and say, that's interesting, and not really buy into it, but you can't discount any of that because we don't know what this phenomenon is. We're just all speculating. And if anybody that says they know and they say it's wrong, well, they have no idea what's going on to begin with. So I would say take that with a grain of salt.
Very interesting. I think about all your body of work and the ranches like Blind Frog and Skinwalker, and then I asked you this in the green room, and I'm going to probably still mess the word up. Is it Uinta?
Uinta, yes.
Uinta Peninsula or region
Basin.
or where
Basin. Yep.
I am, for lack of a better description or situation, I'm thinking of a lot of paranormal investigators that started by just ghost hunting, or they just started searching for Sasquatch, or they're UFOlogists.
Sure.
And they go out looking for UAPs and stuff. But when they go out on these adventures, they experience things they didn't expect they were going to experience. And as time has gone on, they've experienced everything under that paranormal and supernatural umbrella. So now they investigate it all. And I'm thinking of a ranch that I've been to, which is like, if you're familiar with Southern Nevada, it's out in the middle of the desert. It's between like Nipton and Searchlight. There's a little ranch called Walking Box Ranch, and you need special permission to get on this ranch. And back in the day, they used to film westerns out there. But the ranch is supposed to be off the charts paranormal, where like you just step back in time and you can still see these things happening out there. Like such an imprint on time has happened there, dramatic imprints on time that they just replay over and over again.
Sure.
And you see that out there. But I hear that a lot about ranches. And I have a lot of ranchers reach out to me and say, those shows about the haunted ranches, well, that's nothing compared to what happens on my ranch. So I'm just going to throw that at you. What's going on out there, and what makes you scratch your head at night and go, wow, that's really off the charts, unexplainable?
Yeah, I can't explain why those particular, well, maybe I could explain it, but like, for instance, if we narrow our conversation to the Uinta Basin, where there's 2 or 3 predominant ranches, or I would say areas where a lot of paranormal experiences or a lot of experiencing goes on. And that's kind of in the lower section around near where Skinwalker is, in the upper section near where the mountain ranges are, where Blind Frog is. And in those two areas, there's a lot of reports and people actually showing evidence and showing, actually really good evidence. They're bringing pictures, and they're taking UFO pictures and things like that. So there's a lot of like physical evidence going on. Why they're picking that area might just be something to do with what's underground, where the energy is flowing from, down the area. It's a lot of like, and it's very strange. It seems like there's always this big body of water underneath the ground where this stuff is happening. So if you go out to like Las Vegas area, your area, there's a couple ranches, and you do some investigation, you find out that, they're having a lot of crazy stuff going on there, but they're also sitting over this enormous aquifer, and they're sitting inside this basin where they have a lot of vortexes going on. So maybe they're putting ranches, or these ranches are being pinged because they happen to have some location where the energies or whatever is being created to actually influence the people to have experiences get concentrated, almost like a focal point where, maybe it's Skinwalker. Actually, Skinwalker is kind of in a basin. And if you look at it, it almost like if there's something that gets in there, it kind of stays in there. Blind Frog is exactly the same way. It's, in fact, it's even, prominently more. It's almost like if there's some energy that gets in there, it actually starts, rotating and gravitating, and it's actually becoming more and more, it's actually affecting more and more people. So it might just be that where people like to pick these ranches are places that actually have a lot of energy being manipulated by whatever this phenomena is. There's either water there, or it's, geographically in a nice area. There's a lot of maybe some kind of a mineral under the ground. So maybe that's why they picked it. So it's not strange that the Aztecs picked the Uinta Basin to hide things, because it's a very euphoric area. It's very nice. The Native Americans picked it. So you go there and you feel really good about yourself. I mean, up in where the Blind Frog area is. So why not? I mean, so if they picked it, why can't everybody else? Why would an entity that comes from some other place say, oh, that's a pretty cool area, I'm going to go investigate that area?
Well, it's like a perfect storm. The whole area, and they get the high EMF, the high radiation reading.
Yep.
And we notice a lot in the paranormal community, although I'm not a big investigator, but I interview people. And a lot of the very haunted places have a water source, a well, a stream nearby. They have mineral sources, particularly limestone. There's different things that seem to strengthen the, phenomenon that they can maybe draw from it, energy. Sometimes there's like a tower nearby, electrical transmitter,
Very
something
possible,
like that. Towers like that help it out. And I don't want to get off topic, but I'm actually from Chicago, and one of the most haunted cemeteries in that area where people go to, Bachelor's Grove. There's a swamp there. There's a big power station tower, and there's a swamp. And when it rains, the water kind of encircles the whole cemetery.
That's interesting.
And we were kind of checking into that for a while, seeing how much evidence could be collected under dry conditions after it rained. When there was water present all the way around, it seemed to be more active.
Sure. In 100 years from now, when we've got this all figured out, or 200 years or whatever, we're going to look back and say, I know why that was there. But right now, it's not evident to us. We have a lot of people that are trying to investigate it. And that, I got into this business because I worked at this research institute under Hal Puthoff, who was, again, a very famous physicist that was being paid to investigate these by a lot of very well-known people that experienced. And, during my tenure with him, so it was quite a bit of time. I spent a lot of years with him. I started understanding things and understanding what's the repeated things that you start learning. You say, oh yeah, I anticipate that, I expect that, I have all these things. You start seeing patterns. So we would go to an area that people are, the reason I got into the game is because people got hurt when the experiences happened. They were leaving actual physical marks. You say, well, how come people don't get hurt? Well, they do get hurt, and that's how I got into the business. They end up in the hospital. Cows get things taken off them, but we had 45 cases of people ending up in the hospital after they've had a bona fide experience that they explained. They had a lead up where they had a change of personality. Something happened. It actually escalated, became at some point, all of a sudden, they had this full blown experience. And then right after that, they had an acute reaction. Like, they would develop a very big lesion, or they would have skin rashes, or they would have, some horrible thing that was happening to them. And like a autoimmune attack on them from their blood system. But, something would happen. And that's what Hal said to us. He says, I've got 45 cases where people had, profound experiences, and they all ended up in the hospital. Some actually perished. I mean, some actually ended up, and there are always the edge cases, right? There's always, if you have 1 million people that have experiences, there are always going to be a few of those that really end up to be very bad. But so I don't want to scare anybody, but we had these 45 cases. And what got me interested in this is that we actually showed that these people actually got hurt after they had these experiences. It wasn't like they got sick and then all of a sudden, they just had experiences. They had the experiences and then so whatever prompted them, whatever energy came outside and made them have these experiences, caused them to have physical injuries that ended up in the hospital. And some people stayed in the hospital for weeks, some, just for a week or so. But, that's what we were sent out. So I was put on a team with a guy named Kit Green, who was a very famous investigator. He's a neuroanthropologist, or actually he's a neurologist that has a lot of interest in this type of thing. So he would go out with me, and I would do the physics part and the actual part of the environment, and he would actually look at the patient and run up through the MRIs and things like that. So that's what actually prompted me to say that there is something going on. And you start seeing that, well, this is in an area where you have 2 or 3 people that are having this happening to. Like, we did a couple of investigations around the Uinta Basin and found out that when people go there, they were getting sick, and they were actually, having these experiences, coming home, and then other people in their families who never had gotten sick, started getting sick. So it was like, they actually, I don't know if you ever heard this, the hitchhiker effect, which is something that people would bring home, and then family members would then end up getting sick and things like that. So these are the investigations that we did for like 3 or 4 years, and we went back to Hal and said, look, and his sponsor, and said, look, there is definitive proof that we have a correlation between people actually having these experiences, bona fide experiences, and also getting sick to the point where they were actually ending up, needing medical treatment.
As a scientist, this is a 2-part question. What scares you? And don't worry about scaring my audience. They don't get scared, I don't think. What scares you, and whether you're able to come up with an explanation or not about something, do you believe there is an answer scientifically towards most phenomena, or have you bought into any of the supernatural that's going on out there? Even I'm thinking of someone called me the other day and is thoroughly convinced that they have a neighbor who's half alien. And I don't know, I don't have all the answers, and I'm not an expert on anything, but I'm the last person that you're going to hear say, I've seen it all, been there, done that, because I know that that's not true. And I've seen some pretty crazy stuff. So, who knows? But you probably didn't expect me to throw Bigfoot at you. I'm going to throw that at you too, because I believe it's a creature of flesh and blood created by God that just so happens to have some supernaturalness if that's even a word, to it, supernatural properties to its existence to allow it to be the greatest hide and seek champion of all time. Um, do you think abductions are a real thing? Do you think there might be hybrid alien humans walking among us? Do you believe in Bigfoot? Are there any supernatural ghosts, whatever it may be, that you do believe in? Or do you believe it's all probably, whether you've come up with a theory or not, probably all has an answer based in science?
Well, I think it's everything has an answer based in science. I think that we just spin back a little bit and think that these people that make these reports, are they either hallucinating this, or is this a reiteration or an explanation of what they're actually feeling and what they actually observe through their senses? And I think that's the latter. I think what we're seeing is that we're not seeing self-induced type of hallucinations. I think what we're seeing is an explanation that people are providing about what they're actually experiencing from some other external source. So we say, well, have people been abducted? I think they actually have been abducted. I mean, I don't think that we can actually ever rule that out, because people go into a catatonic state for a period of time and they leave their body, maybe not physically, not actually leaving their body, but what are we? Yeah, we're a bunch of cells, but in our brains we have all this intelligence. So what's to say that that can't get brought to some place and operate in some other realm that allows us to be investigated through some other things? We don't know. We're not smart enough to even think that that's a possibility. But that's an abduction, because we're not being physically abducted. Our cells are not going someplace, but our intelligence is going someplace for a short period of time just to see what makes us tick. So, and the reason I say that, I'm not saying that because I just, like a science fiction. I've seen thousands and thousands of cases where people report this, and they report it in such a way that you can actually look at it from, now they have all this AI and stuff like that. You can ask, are these people, what's their sentiment? Are they for real? Are they lying? Were they scared? And it's all the same thing. It's all these people actually explaining, and the AI would kick back. These people are actually explaining a real situation that happened to them. So then you have to think, I said, wait a minute, if that's possible, is it something that's getting induced from the outside? Is there an entity that's actually giving this impression to them, where they come over to them and says, look, I'm going to let you see something called Bigfoot. And they say, okay, well, I see a Bigfoot. You might not physically see a Bigfoot, but you're given that impetus into your brain to say, yeah, I've seen something. But it's not that you're making it up. It's somebody is making it up for you from the outside. Or I shouldn't say somebody. Something is making it up for you on the outside. So, in science, you really can't rule anything out. And the thing is that what we did kind of not rule out, but we still have a very strong impression. That's what our first investigation was, is that these people are not hallucinating. This is actually happening to them. And our brains are just reporting this. And unfortunately, our brains are so creative. We tend to, like I said before, rationalize things and draw conclusions around it to make it so it's not as bad as it seems, a little bit safer for us to be. But the bottom line is that, we have very strong evidence that there's something coming from the outside, make them think this, see these things, feel they've been abducted, go someplace, learn. I mean, believe it or not, come back in 4 hours and have the ability to speak an entirely new language that they never even heard of before, or have written down on a piece of paper something so crazy that they'd have to go get it interpreted, and then find out that it's like this thing from like 100 years from now. So, I mean, if you see one or two of these things, they say, oh, that's interesting. But we see literally thousands of these, and you put each one in the data, you put each one of these things in the data set, you strip out all the personality stuff, and what is left is that it's real bona fide data that you can actually put into a model, a statistical model, to say whether or not this is actually real. And what it points to is that, there's a high probability that there's something going on that's inducing this in people and leaving medical footprints as they do this.
Right. What's interesting too is that high EMF helps the paranormal be able to strengthen itself and come, into our field of awareness. But also high EMF can make us seem a little like high levels of that can lead to, I don't want to say a delusionary state, but it can make an altered state mentally, right?
No, I think you're 100%. And again, I just want to go back to what I had originally worked on and found in our investigations is that what we did is that, okay, so if you go back to what our study, so we were given enough money back in 2017, 2018 to conduct a very intense study, and we picked 50 people. We only got really 35 of them or 36 of them, but we were able to pick 30, like 36 people. We put instrumentation around them because we said if people are having experiences and getting hurt from external sources, some external vector or something from the outside, can we technically measure that at some point and have a correlation between what they're experiencing and some crazy signal, which is the electromagnetic, the gamma, gyroscopic, all the different signals that you could possibly have. And what basically we came up with is that we had a very, very interesting result. In fact, if you want, I can actually share, if you wouldn't mind, if I can share my screen and show you some of the results that, if I get back to your. So do you think I can share a screen?
We could try. You'll be the first one to try.
Well, I'm going to actually. Well, I'm sharing a screen right now. If you can see that.
No, I can't. I just see you.
I see it in the green room. If we can pull it up like a.
Oh, I got you. Let me see if I can get that up here. Boom.
Ta-da.
There it is.
Okay, so this is from about 2 years ago. These are instances where we gave the people a piece of equipment. We call it the Mupas system. And we also asked them on a day-to-day basis, give us an explanation or a narrative of any experiences. And for instance, this is one of the experiences that we reported. We had thousands of these where we had this electromagnetic energy. You can see that this line right here is the normal everyday cell phones and microwaves and all this other stuff. All of a sudden, there was this incredible peak that happened at some point along, during the day, and they reported to us. And of course, these people can't see these signals, so they don't know this is going on. And they got reported to us. We had an experience. We saw something. An orb came in the room, or anything like, something like that. And every single one of these reports that came. So sometimes, because this was done very protective of the people's personal information, if sometimes we don't include the narrative, but if we have something in this document, it's because people said something happened. We looked at the instrumentation. All of a sudden, there was a crazy spike. So here's another spike in the gyroscopic sensor where we said, somebody reported that something very anomalous happened to them. And at the same time, we had an anomalous spike in the gyroscope. Here's one in the electromagnetic spectrum. We would get like every day at some certain time or every week or so, they would get these spikes and have at the exact same time they would have an experience. And this is another situation where somebody had an experience, and at the same time, this is the electromagnetic energy that we measured from this instrument at that exact moment. And we have hundreds of these. I mean, literally 600 of these types of things that we found. Here's another one that looks crazy, right? So all of these had a correlation between people basically reporting to us, not knowing that there was actually this spike in electromagnetic energy, reporting to us that there was this very, very profound experience. And at the same time, we went back to the data coming from the instruments, and we found we had a very, very big. So when you guys are saying that there might be some electromagnetic energy that induces things, well, yeah, we have 600 of these actual instances where people report that something happened to them, in a psychic sense, where they actually felt like a human presence, or they felt, some kind of a catatonia where they would go into a trance. And so we have 600 of these, and it's like, when people ask me, do you think this is real? He says, well, I can't say it's not real because we have so much evidence that it is real. And, you can't, here's another one that's like super, super big spike all of a sudden in the gyroscopic. How does that possibly happen? And you need some kind of like a big physics laboratory to actually make that happen.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to kind of give you an idea that what I've collected over the past several years is, I keep going and going and going. I mean, we had 600 of these things, and I just picked out the nicest ones where people, if I got their permissions, they would allow me to actually put these things in here. But there's like all of these actually instances that we record. I stopped sharing, so it went away. I have other stuff that people can look at and see some of the results from our study. In fact, would you mind if I posted in the
Anything
link
you want to do, brother?
I'm going to put this in here. So if people want to see some of the results, learn about the study that was happened, the results that we came, there's this website that I put up about a year ago that pretty much has all the data from our phase 1 study. Right now we're in phase 2 study, which is actually it's funded. I got funding from actually it's an interesting story. So when I say study, that means that we're collecting, say, 50 people, putting them together for the first study that Hal funded, Dr. Putov funded. And we're collecting data and we're collecting narratives from them on a daily basis, things like that, putting together some scientific data so we can get some statistics to show that there, in fact, is a influence of paranormal impetus or a paranormal trigger that's actually causing these things. That then subsequently led to the new survey, which started about 6 months ago. That again is a very well funded, and it's being funded by somebody that was in the first study. We ended the first study about 2 years ago, and this person called me up. He says, "You can't take my instrument away," because I started feeling so secure that I had this thing, and I felt like I was more in control. Because prior to that, they were just a family of people that were just frightened to death, and sometimes they didn't want to leave the house because they were afraid that they would have an experience. And I'm sure a lot of people that experience have that feeling. Says, "Wait, I don't want to get in a car because if I go into catatonic state, I'm going to crash."
Yeah.
But being in this study, having the equipment, having the ability to record all these things, gave them this feeling that they were in a little bit more control of their lives. And they screamed at me, says, "You can't do this." So I said, "Look, if I ever fire up this thing again, you'll be the first to go." So anyway, so when I did inform them that I had enough people that were just bombarding me with a request to start the study up again, they said, "We're going to fund this," because they were very well off people. So they said, "We're going to fund this." So I have a sponsor now that is paying for all of the upfront costs for people to get involved in this. And they can just come in and basically, they take a little survey so we can get to know them and understand your unique situation. But then we give a device that they can actually look at on a day-to-day basis, see their activity, log all their narratives and all this kind of stuff. So that's actually ongoing now, where we're just getting it's amazing what's going on. So we have people literally, I think we have 11 countries now there. So for some reason, like England's very big right now. They're in Scotland are coming in. People from Scotland are joining our study. Australia's joining our study. We just had a new one. I forgot where. I think it was Austria. We had somebody that just joined, but it's from all over the world. People are joining this study. So we're funded to bring in up to 10,000 people into the study. And that's what we need to kind of get the really good statistics to go out into the scientific community.
What, if I had to put your feet to the fire here and force you to definitively give an opinion on something, what, if anything, that you've encountered out there scared you or scares you, and what should folks that go out and do what you do that aren't trained like you with your background as a scientist, just as a hobby, want to go out and do some squatching or some
Sure.
night watches and look for UAPs or go ghost hunting and stuff like that? Is there anything people like that should should be afraid of?
So that goes back to I've been on a couple TV shows now because people were interested in getting my opinion and stuff. And so I've been on Skinwalker. I'm on Blind Frog. I did a show on National Geographic. So I've been around a lot of situations where I explain the things that why do I do it? What are we learning and things like that. And then a lot of questions come out like that. What are we doing wrong? Are we looking at the right spot? And I say, of all these shows, I go back to like the Skinwalker. And one of the issues I had with Skinwalker and Bob Bigelow, I don't know if you've heard of Bob Bigelow, was the person that owned
previously.
Yeah, I worked with him. So before the current owner, I was with Hal Puthoff, who is Bob Bigelow's chief scientist. So I was entrenched in all the things. Saw a lot of data that came from Skinwalker well before the new people got it who started the TV show. But what Bob Bigelow basically said is that, first of all, this entity, you can't fool it. You have to live with it. You have to be nice to it. You have to encourage it, because every time you do something that's sinister to it, it'll screw you up and do something very sinister back to you. It'll not it won't do the things that you think. So Bob Bigelow was so frustrated that he couldn't get these things to repeat itself, but he was trying to do it in such a way, like he would put animals in a cage and then put cameras on them and see what happens if they ever got abducted or whatever like that. But every time that he did something like benign and very nice to the earth and things like that, then all these crazy things would happen. I mean, you'd have a really, really good activity happening. So what he learned and then passed off to me is that you really have to do your science in a way that you're actually observing and you're not inducing, and you're not saying, hey, come out. So I know that the current Skinwalker people are like firing rockets and doing all these crazy things, but that's one way to do it. But Bob Bigelow never had any success, and he was, he's a real, and he spent millions of dollars on scientists, and they had real scientists that were on there and never got anything. So when the Blind Frog people came to me and says, we want you to come here and investigate, I said, well, I hope, I want you to keep this scientific, and I don't want you to start blowing things up. And, and he said, no, we want you to instrument, we want you to observe, we want you to, try to figure out what's going on. So to answer your question, I think that the biggest mistake people are making is that they take this phenomena for granted and think that they can, slap it in the head and have it come and say, oh yeah, I'm from over here, and make a communication. Because what happens is it goes away. Bob Bigelow, he would do something really bad to this thing, and it would go away for a year, literally go away for a year. And he would be spending, $1 million a year on scientists and equipment, and just get so frustrated. And that's why he ended up selling the place, because he just couldn't. He wanted to control the phenomena, and he learned that he couldn't do that. So my suggestion to everybody is that don't try to control it. Try to understand it. Try to run experiments where you can tap into the things that it's doing, that that it's doing, that you can actually build some really good statistics on it. So, don't try to do some very, I think they're using, I don't know, blowtorches or whatever the heck they're using. Those kind of things. I'm not making fun of them. It's Skinwalker Ranch is a reality show, right? I mean, so it needs the drama in order to be successful. But you asked me a scientific question. So the scientific answer is that it is a phenomenon that is very intelligent, much smarter than we are, and it knows when you're messing with it, and it's going to go away and not rear its head until you go away and leave it alone, and then it'll start doing its thing. So just to give you some examples, so we had in our study people that would go up to an area and basically deface it. I mean, basically go into a cave and chip away precious materials or precious stones, come back, and then all of a sudden their data would just go crazy, or the kids would act up. They would have a very bad day, and all of a sudden things went really, really bad, and they would report that. They would say that we went hiking, we chipped away these rocks, we brought these crystals back. And ever since then, things just went out of control. The family was just out of control. The kids were terrible. The dogs were terrible. I felt terrible. So then they reported a week later, we brought the stuff back. And then it happened instantly, but several days after that, everything went back to normal. The instruments, all those spikes started to go away. They felt better. So it's like, if you respect the land, and I've actually said this before, if you respect it, it'll actually respect you and show itself a lot more outwardly than if you just try to like smack it in the head. I don't want to use that. That's all due respect to the people.
Yeah, but I love what you just said, because I do that. I tell that to people all the time too. Just don't provoke. Respect the location. Respect the spirit.
Yes.
Don't provoke.
They're smarter than us. They got more power than us. Be respectful.
Right.
Yeah.
So
very well said.
That's an answer to your question.
What about the old? And I've only got a few minutes left before I got to kick you out of here. What about those that are super paranoid about the government? And when I tell people about, in my world, it's all demons, angels,
Sure.
Ghosts, some extraterrestrials that may or may not be visiting these people in dream states and taking them off to these worlds. But then I had a guy the other day say, well, what if it's none of that and it's us? What if it's the government?
Very possible. Yeah.
Oh, really? You think that could be possible?
Oh,
that's
no.
Scary.
So it's very possible that some of the things are us. I mean, there's very possible.
And that's
so
scary.
I'm going back to, that is scary. So I'm going back to, say, for instance, the Havana syndrome, which is a real thing, right? We have well over 200 patients that exhibit the kind of physiological changes in their body that somebody that had profound experience would have. So I was actually put on a team with Dr. Green to actually investigate those, to try to understand, is there a correlation between what they were happening and what were happening? So, they took these patients and they spread them out. Like, they went to Johns Hopkins, they went to Bethesda, they went to, they were spread out and they were investigated to see what caused these things. And the first thing they said, it was a sonic weapon. And, that kind of, so the National Academy of Sciences came back and said, no. It was some kind of electromagnetic pulse from something. So very short-lived electromagnetic pulse. We can create those kind of pulses, but we can't create that kind of thing for all the millions of people out there that have exhibited the same kind of symptoms as these people did. So where some of the things might be related to, things that are being tested by governments, on the majority, we can't do all of these things. So I'm saying is that some of the things sneak out that might be connected to some testing or things like that. But the majority is, or the likelihood is, that it's actually something that is much, much higher and much, much more powerful than anything that we can concoct.
Wow. Well, listen, brother, I'm going to give Annette a moment to say a couple of last words to you, and then I have to kick you out of here. Annette, is there anything you want to say to Jim other than thank him so much for being here today before I kick him out of here?
Thank you so much, and thanks so much to your wife. And it was really interesting.
Yeah,
we could probably talk and have questions for 6, 7, 8 hours because it's so much interrelated stuff that all came to a head. It's almost like when people talk about ley lines, special places, where the energy is different, but there's also an actual Native American curse that was put there. And I mean, it's just all of it together. So there's so many aspects. It's easier to talk about the things that don't happen there.
That's right.
No vampires, no Mothman, but a lot of other stuff that's just so active. And I love what you said about seeing all of it as dealing with a higher intelligence and to be respectful. And it's not necessarily a whole bunch of different things. There could be a higher intelligence to all of the theater that's happening there. That's kind of cool.
Yep. In 100 years from now, we'll look back and say, oh, yeah, I get it now.
Right. Exactly. But I really enjoyed it. And thanks so much. And thanks to Barbara.
You betcha.
Jim, God bless you, brother. I love you and respect you. I think you're a super cool dude. Give your wife a hug for me. Have a happy St. Patrick's Day on Monday.
Yes.
And I'd love to have you back. If you'd come back, I'll throw some dates at you further down the road. And and have you back sometime. Okay,
Sounds great.
Jim. Thank you so much, buddy. I'll
You bet.
talk to you soon. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, brother.
Yep.
Thank you.
What a great guest.
Wasn't he wonderful?
Oh my gosh. What do I got coming up? Yeah, we're here next Friday, March 21st. I'll give you one guess who's coming on.
Who is coming?
She happens to be the host of the Angel Rock right here on UPRN. The one and only Laura Lee Potvin will be here.
Oh, nice, because she was going to come on, but she got so sick
Yep,
and
that's going to be great.
tragically lost her son and just went through such a really bad patch. So that's wonderful.
That is wonderful. I'm very excited. Got any plans for St. Patrick's Day on Monday?
I don't.
I don't either. That's one big thing that's changed about my life. But you know me, I was baptized under St. Patrick as my guardian saint, and many, many years later, during my confirmation, I was also confirmed under him as my guardian saint. It's interesting, I got ordained to the priesthood the day before a St. Patrick's Day, and then the following day on St. Patrick's Day, I got to
Right.
co-celebrate Mass with Bishop Long on that day. So that was very, very cool. But listen, I love you and respect you too. You know I do. I can't wait to see you next Friday, and we'll welcome Laura Lee and have a great time. You have a wonderful. How's your daughter doing?
She's doing really, really good.
Very cool.
Very happy.
Give your family my best. Have a wonderful remainder to your weekend. I hope you have a.
She will need a
blessing.
second surgery, though. That's already for sure, but doing good.
I will continue to pray for her. And happy St. Patrick's Day, and I'll be talking to you very, very soon. Okay.
Very good. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
See you later. All right, brothers and sisters. What do I want to say to everybody before I say good night? Other than I hope each and every one of you listening has a very happy and blessed St. Patrick's Day. If you still go out and partake, don't do anything too crazy, and be safe. And thank you all for tuning in, because I don't have a show without you guys. Stay tuned. We're just getting started here on High Strangeness Fridays on UPRN. Coming up next is Spirit Switchboard with Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. That's a great show. And thank you to UPRN, Joe Montaldo and Michelle DeRoche, for making this happen, getting my show on this network. It's been a godsend, and thank you so much for that. And that's all I really got to say to all you guys right now, other than I will be continuing to pray for each and every one of you, everyone that can see me and within the sound of my voice. God bless you all. Remember, we may have done what the devil said we did, but we are not who the devil says we are. Good night, Danny. Good night, Jack. Good night, Dog. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. I love you all. God bless you all in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Peace. Happy St. Patrick's Day.